Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about Shakespeare, and specifically one of his sonnets. We're going to be talking about a specific poetic element that you will have learned about if you had watched the video. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the video or finish it, don't worry, it's going to be on the family school later today. And then we're going to be going into one of Shakespeare's sonnets, and we're going to be talking about the meaning behind it and how he uses metaphor and really getting deep into exploring one of the topics he chooses. So let's start out talking about iambic pentameters. So for those who saw the video, does anyone want to try a stab at explaining what on earth iambic pentameters are?
I will.
Okay, thanks.
It's a rhythm in poetry and how you say it. Like every other beat is emphasized.
Very good, very good. So what would be an example? Maybe what was one of the examples they used in the video, or maybe if you have one of your own. Go ahead. I kind of have some examples on the screen, so you can choose one of those if you like. Fine, I can wait as long as you guys can. Somebody want to try a stab? Try to explain, use one of those examples, and can you find the rhythm in one of those examples? Oh, would someone mind volunteering to read one of those scriptures I have on the screen and emphasize the words so that we can hear this rhythm? Okay, sounds like it's kind of breaking up. For those of you who can't hear me very well, try turning off the webcam so that you can't see them, see the little window, and see if that helps. And maybe if it's everyone, then here, I'll just go ahead and turn off mine as well. See if that helps. So the question was, I was wondering if someone would mind taking one of those scriptures on the screen and reading it with emphasizing the correct syllables so that we can really hear this iambic pentameter.
Could I do it?
Yes, go ahead, James.
I'll start with Matthew 6:10. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth.
Good. So you can really hear that pattern. So that pattern is every other syllable is emphasized. A da 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 da. And interestingly enough, and they talked about this in the video as well, but it made it a lot easier to memorize. There's something about that pattern that's tied in with nature. It's tied in the way your body works, the way your mind works, that it's very easy to pick up. And interestingly, also, it's tied also with your heartbeat. When your heart is beating really fast, maybe before a talk or sometime when you're nervous, if you put your hand over your heart, and you'll hear that same rhythm. And so it's interesting. Shakespeare was not the first one to come up with this. It's all throughout the King James version of the scriptures. In other words, when the great scholars such as Miles Coverdale and William Tyndale were translating the Bible from Latin, they not only translated it into English words, but they translated it into specific English words and ordered them in a poetic way. making it easier to remember orally. So we see with Matthew 6:10, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. It has that same pattern. Even John 3:17, for God sent not his son into the world, and then you can read the rest. You can see it's also in Isaiah, it's in Genesis. And as one scholar noted, he said it's that pulse, it's that rhythm that makes it easier to remember. And that is one of the reasons the King James Bible is so distinct. And so when Shakespeare comes on the scene, Shakespeare was really just taking English that really, William Tyndale is known as one of the fathers of the English language. Words like atonement, he's the one who gave us those words. He had an extensive knowledge of languages, and in history we'll be talking more about William Tyndale, but if you remember, he's the one who got burned at the stake for translating the scriptures. He spent his entire life on the run. And really, the reason we have the scriptures today is because of William Tyndale. And so he was a master linguist, and he was not only a master linguist, he was one of the greatest political thinkers, he was a cultural thinker, and he took the scriptures and he put them into this form that has this poetic style. And it was the same style that William Shakespeare came along with. So we often talk about William Shakespeare was an amazing linguist, and he was, but really he was taking it from great, amazing Christian heroes like William Tyndale and others. So as we're going throughout the sonnet, keep your eyes out looking for that element of the poetry. And we're also going to notice so we're going to be reading Sonnet 18, and really look for how each line ends in a rhymed couplet. And then we're also going to be really looking for metaphors. What are metaphors?
A metaphor is like a comparison between two seemingly different things.
Good. Do you have an example? Or not necessarily Anna, not to put you on the spot. Does anybody have an example they'd want to share? So one of the examples that's often used for metaphors is the world is a stage. And I'm sure you've heard that one before. And so a metaphor is stated in the sense, let's see, I think we have someone's mic on. So if everybody could just check their mic if they're a panelist. Kylie, I think your mic might be on. Okay.
Kylie!
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I know it sometimes goes on randomly, so sorry about that. So Haley Durant is very right. So a metaphor is a comparison without using like or as, right? So we could say, that man is as sturdy as an ox, but that's not a metaphor, because a metaphor is drawing that connection without using like or as. So for example, the world is a stage. The world is not really a stage, but we're using that metaphor to describe it. So the sonnet starts, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Now remember, this has the pentameter in it, so you can be watching for that. But let's look at the metaphors. He says, thou art more lovely and more temperate. So Shakespeare's going to be describing his love. And what we're going to look into it, I really want you to really be thinking. He's going to be drawing comparisons, and he's trying to teach you what love is like. And I want you to keep your eyes out. Is this true love? Or is this a different kind of love? Or is it something in between? And really analyze the sonnet. So first of all, what does Shakespeare compare his love to? Good. So he's comparing it to a summer's day. Why is he drawing that comparison? What connection do you think is between the two?
Maybe because a summer day is a lovely thing.
Good, good. It's lovely. Here's some other keywords are warm, happy, free, comforting. So what do you think he's saying when he says, thou art more lovely and more temperate? So he's doing a comparison and he's doing a contrast. So we've mentioned some of the comparisons. What are some of the contrasts? Oh, and Cindy, we are on lesson 6. Right, more lovely. What does the word temperate mean?
Does it have something to do with patience or something like that?
Good, patience. Someone else chatted calm. I'm just going to look up so if you go to
Tempered.
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, even tempered.
Even tempered. So what would be the opposite of temperate?
Opposite. Agitated.
Agitated. Probably a little out of control, right? Very overly emotional, not restrained or controlled at all, right? Good. So he's saying, okay, I'm going to compare you to a summer's day, but you're even more lovely and you're more temperate than that. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bringing in a talk that's just an excellent talk. You can read the whole thing from President Spencer W. Kimball. And he wrote it he was speaking to the youth, both those in teen years and as well as college, on the subject of love. And he talks about what is true love, what is not true love, the difference, comparing and contrasting. But so in that talk, he says, what is love? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using quotes from President Kimball throughout the lesson, and we're going to compare and contrast to what Shakespeare is writing in his sonnet, and we're going to try to see if by the end of the lesson we can come up with some very specific characteristics of what love is. So President Kimball says, what is love? He says, many people think of it as a mere physical attraction, and they casually speak of falling in love and love at first sight. He said, this may be Hollywood's version and the interpretation of those who write love songs and love fiction. True love is not wrapped in such flimsy material. One might become immediately attracted to another individual, but love is far more than a physical attraction. It is deep, inclusive, and comprehensive. Okay, so right off the bat, we know that love is something that's often different than how the world pictures it. So we're going to see if we can draw some metaphors, and we can use the metaphors Shakespeare used and maybe some of our own to try to understand what is true love. Yeah, let me see if there's something going on here with the mic. Megan, you're wondering if we get to turn on our, let's see, Megan, did you have a question? Specifically, are you wondering if you can make a comment verbally without turning on your webcam? Let's see, can everyone hear me okay? Okay. 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to ask the next question is, okay, so the next part of, yeah, Sydney, jump on your webcam. Some of everyone was having some problems with the robotic sound, so I turned it off, but go ahead. You can turn on your webcam. Maybe I'll turn mine back on and we'll try it again. But the next part of the sonnet, and then I'm going to open it up so we can get some more discussion. He says, rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. So what is he saying about summer? It's too short. Is that how do you guys feel? Do you enjoy summer? Does it seem like it's something that's too short?
I think that it depends on if you're doing a lot of stuff during the summer. Sometimes it seems super duper long, and sometimes it just flies by really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Anyone have any other? It's okay to definitely think. We'll call it the ponder pause. But since you're thinking about it, think about the comparison he's drawing with the buds of May being too short. What is he talking about? Why is he making these comparisons and using these metaphors to describe love? What do you think his perspective on love is? Or maybe his experience?
Maybe he thinks that love doesn't last very long, I guess.
Right, so maybe a little inconstant. Like Haley says, Haley said he knows that his love is going to leave him eventually. Let's see. Connor is. Can everyone hear me at least somewhat? Connor seems to be having trouble. Just want to make sure. Okay, so Jen's made a good point. He says it's not. He's not. So that's why I want to ask the question. What is he describing? He's saying. What is he describing? Real love, or maybe is he describing something else?
Would you mind repeating what you just asked?
Absolutely, Sydney. And for those who might be having trouble with the audio, please make sure you're connected directly. If you're not connected directly to the internet, if you are connected directly to the internet, in other words, you're wired and you're still having trouble, let me know. Okay, so that's what it sounds like, right? Like Haley's saying and a couple others, he's describing something that may not necessarily be love. So we want to ask ourselves, what is love? What is he describing maybe that's different? So the questions, just to repeat for, okay, hold on one second. We're having a lot of trouble. Let me see if I can get that resolved really quick. I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Those who didn't hear, she's gonna go try and fix it.
Okay, let's see if that is better. Let me know if it goes robot-y or sound like that again. Sorry about that. Okay, so did anybody have any thoughts as we, during that very long, extended ponder pause? Go ahead, Liberty. Let's try the webcams now. And then those who are wondering if they can be panelists, I am out of places for panelists. So next time, I just do it in order of request, so first come, first serve. But okay, did anybody have any thoughts about what we've discussed so far? Very good. I like what Jen said. So Jen said that maybe it's lust that he's really explaining and that he's seeing and that he's experiencing, right? Now, remember that when a poet writes, they're not writing so much just to say what they want to say or maybe just write random words. They're trying to communicate. They're trying to teach. They're trying to portray a picture that you can relate with and help you come to a greater realization about some aspect of life or maybe some principle or some teaching. So as he's sitting here explaining this, what are you learning about the difference between love and lust? Maybe just one aspect we're seeing so far. We're not very long into the poem, right? Only about 4 lines. But well, let's first ask the question, what is the difference, maybe already that you know, between love, or true love, versus lust?
Well, I noticed that he's comparing to things that are tangible and real, and I think that true love can really only be explained by things that are not real, like feelings and emotions, not objects.
Okay, I like the point you made, Sydney, and we're gonna tie kind of something back to that, but I don't want to jump ahead, but keep that thought in mind because it ties into a statement by President Kimball. Right, so like Sri was saying and Olson and a couple others, it's just lust is instantaneous. It's just something based on what you want, based on physical craving. It's not based on truth and real goodness. I really like what McKelty said. She said, lust takes, love is sacrifice, right? And that kind of love doesn't fade away like the summer's day. It's not of too short a date. Okay, so here are some elements that President Kimball talks about, some specific aspects. Let me play the screen here. So he says there must be faith and confidence and understanding and partnership. There must be common ideals and standards. There must be a great devotion and companionship. Love is cleanliness and progress and sacrifice and selflessness. This kind of love never tires nor wanes, but lives through sickness and sorrow, poverty and privation, accomplishment and disappointment, time and eternity. For the love to continue, there must be an increase constantly of confidence and understanding, of frequent and sincere expression of appreciation and affection. There must be a forgetting of self and a constant concern for the other. Interests, hopes, objectives must constantly be focused into a single channel. Okay, now that was a big mouthful. So what are some, maybe 1 or 2, 3 aspects of love that he's specifically describing? So we're going to be putting it into this comparison and contrast. What is love? What's the difference? What is it? What is it not? So what are some specific characteristics of love from President Kimball?
I love how he said forgetting of self, like being selfless. Mm-hmm. I really thought that was a good word and thing to describe in that.
Right. Because if you think about it, the opposite, what would the opposite of love be? love is forgetting yourself. What's the opposite? Selfishness, right? Right, like Anna said. It's going to be focused on yourself. So it's very important. This is very important to do these comparison and contrast. What's another aspect? Someone maybe wants to share over the microphone.
In the quote where it says that common ideals and standards, that I think is really important, because if one of you disagrees on something, one of you disagrees on another, either it's not going to work or something's going to give, and that might compromise one of your standards.
Very good. So if you think about love with God, right? We have to, if we want to really be able to love God, we have to have a common ideal, a common standard with God. And the more we're like God, the more love we will have for God. And that's the same thing, like you're saying, with other people around you. If you think about what's the difference between maybe someone who's a really true, one of your best friends, versus someone who's more of an acquaintance, you'll notice, well, a lot of it, if it's not, we're talking, of course, about love that's not based in selfishness. If it's based in selfishness, it won't be too concerned about any of these ideals here. But if it's true love and true honorable affection, it will have you'll have common ideals and standards. Maybe someone want to throw out one more?
I like how it says that true love is sacrifice, even when things are hard. It's not just when things are easy.
That's really important, isn't it, Anna? It's easy to sacrifice when everything is good, right? Good. And like Haley brought out, the constant concern for the other. So it's all, and we might be thinking, wow, this sounds like a lot of hard work, right? This doesn't sound fun like it does in the movies. And that's what President Kimball, that's why he started out. He said, this is going to be different than what the world pictures, but this is the kind of love that won't leave you lamenting, like we're seeing in part of this Shakespeare sonnet here. Lamenting that, oh, it's going to go away, because this is the kind of love that if a person has that kind of love for you, or you have that kind of love for someone else, it's not going to be going away, and it's not going to be just fleeing when the summer day is gone. Okay, so he goes on to describe, he says, sometimes too hot, the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. So what do you think he's describing when he says the eye of heaven? What's the eye of heaven he's seeing in the sky? Sun. Good. So he's saying sometimes too hot. The sun is shining too hot. What do you think he's saying there? How many of us have been outside on a day that's just sweltering hot, witheringly hot? Okay, that's all of us, right? It pretty much can very quickly wither good attitudes, happiness, peace, joy, right? Pretty soon you're not feeling very in good humor, right? Yes, all of us in Utah know what we're talking about here, right? So, so he says, sometimes the sun shines too hot. What do you think he's describing? Because remember, he's not talking about the sun, really. He's talking about love. So or lust, or something else. So what's he describing here? What kind of a situation is he describing? When he says, sometimes the eye of heaven shines too hot. What's he talking about? Argument. I like that, Spencer. Right? Arguments are pretty. I like also Haley made the observation of spontaneity, getting into a commitment, jumping in too quickly, without purpose and commitment. Right, like Jacob said, contention. Another idea I thought of, and that's the beauty of symbolism here, metaphor, is it's this imagery that you can understand at all these different levels, and all of us, and that's why it's so good to discuss different symbolism, because everyone puts piece together. Another one I thought of is of course, when that sun is shining hot, it's the hardest part, right? It's those trials. It's going through, and that's often who you know who your truest friends are. Are they the ones that are there when things are really going hard, or maybe you have to push through a hard project or a hard period in your life, and they go, you know what, this is hard, this is more than I bargained for, I'm out of here? Or are they the ones that push through? So he says also often is his gold complexion dimmed. So what happens to the sun at the end of the day? Goes down, right? It's gone. So how is he comparing this to this idea of love he's seeing? Right, it disappears. It's gone. It was good when it was here. It was fun. It was really enjoyable, but now it's gone. So here's the question. This sounds kind of sad, you know? I mean, if you think, wow, this is the life I'm heading into growing up. I'm just going to have to expect this. This is kind of sad. Is this true love? Is this really what we have to expect? Okay, good. So I'm getting some notes here. Very good. So like Sheree said, love is going to be based on our actions. And that's what we're going to get to. I think it's in the slide right after this. But let's do one more set in Shakespeare's sonnet. So he says, in every fair from fair, sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. So why do things that are fair sometimes decline? So here he's describing this love that we've all agreed this is not true love. So it's something else. And it's something that's beautiful and it's fun, but then it declines. So I want to ask the question, why is it declining? So it's easy, we can say, okay, well, it's not true love. This is something else. This is lust or a selfish love. But why is it declining? Just the fact that it's not love doesn't mean that that's why it declines. Why is it that it declines? What is it about it that causes it to decline? So like Haley said, I'll get old eventually if it's based on physical attraction or if it's based on having fun vacations or making each other just laugh. If that's what it's based in, that will change. And then, of course, when that changes, it's not fun anymore, right? No commitment. That's really good. Commitment is something that's almost non-existent in the world today. Okay, so good. So I'm going to read this statement by Brigham Young, and he talks about what it really looks like if you really have true love. Now, the only way to understand what true love is to really love the Lord. And to the degree you love the Lord is the degree you're going to be able to love everyone else. So let's see what it looks like. He says, it's a great labor to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. He says, so do we love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and then speak evil of thy neighbor? Is that possible? He says, no, of course not. He says, is it possible to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and speak that which is not true? He says, no. So what are two things already that Brigham Young pulled out are characteristics of love? So these are keys. These are specific little ways to know if you feel like, I love this person or this person loves me. This is specific keys to know, do you really love them or do you have a different emotion? So what are the two things he pulled out already just in the first 5 lines? if a person has true love, what will they do and what will they not do? Haley brought out a good point, right? Speak no evil. So what comes out of your mouth. So this is a good key, because sometimes we think, oh, well, we love God. Of course we love God. Do we really? And how much do we really love Him? Do we speak? Do we say things that aren't true? Do we lie, even just a little bit? A couple white lies?
I don't know if you saw it,
Mm-hmm.
but I put in a quote.
Yeah, Shree, do you want to read that for us?
Okay. To fall in love with God is the greatest romance. To seek Him is the greatest adventure. To find Him is the greatest human achievement.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you, Shree. And Aubrey brought a point. She brought a point. None of us are perfect, right? So, but to the degree that we are more like God and more following these commandments, the more of an honest person we are, the more of a kind person, the more is the degree we'll have charity. Love is not an on or off thing. It's not, yes, I love him, or no, I don't. There's such a thing as degrees. And so you can really gauge yourself, how much do I love God? How well do I keep the Sabbath day holy? What is that sign that I'm sending to God? Do I really love Him? Okay, so we'll try to get through the rest of this here. So he says, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. And we're going to skip these questions just so we don't run out of time. But here we're going to jump to the last part of it. So he says, nor shall death brag, thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So what is Shakespeare describing is what keeps it alive. So this is one of his ideas. We're going to ask, is this correct? Is it incorrect, or something else? Anyone know what he's talking about here? He says, so long as men can breathe, right? Because he's describing this love that's so beautiful, it's so amazing, it's like the summer's day, but it's going to fade, and it is going to end, just like when the sun goes down or when the winter comes. But he says, as long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So what is his strategy for keeping his love from dying? Any ideas? Or are we all confused? Kind of confused. Okay, that's all good. That's all good. So what he's describing here is he sees, and here let's go to just the previous slide to help give some context here. So he says, the eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. So he's saying, in the eternities, this love can keep going. Maybe even though death takes it, maybe even though it goes away, maybe we can keep it going into eternity. And he says, as long as men can breathe or eyes can see. And one of the ways he's thinking is, he says, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to give this poem to my love so that she can see, or he can see, that no matter what happens, it lives on. And trying to keep it alive in the face of death. Keep it alive in the face of the heat of the sun. Keep it alive specifically through his talent of writing. So we're going to ask the question, but how do we really keep love alive? What really keeps it going? Pouring more money or more fun maybe into it? Maybe just trying to avoid anything that's difficult. Don't talk when you're in a bad mood. There's a lot of answers to this, because the simple answer could be, we'll just be perfect. But there's a lot of that. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
There's something that helps perhaps do it is putting someone like their needs before yours. Does that do anything?
Yeah, definitely, right? Because that was one of the characteristics we learned about love earlier, was selflessness, right? So, of course, being selfless is a lot harder than talking about it, right? It's a lot harder to put it into action. I like what Anna said, working together, right? That was something that my dad always taught me from when I was really young, younger than all of you guys, is he said, anybody can shine on the dance floor. And what he meant by that was, you all look amazing, maybe when you're in a candlelit restaurant or when you're on the dance floor, but what is that person like in real life? What is that person like when you're working on a project, when you're cleaning dishes? Maybe you're working on laying tile. Maybe you're working on planting in a garden. Maybe you are out trying to solve some problem or help someone else who's struggling. That's when the real person shows through. We're going to finish out here with this quote from President Kimball, and I would highly recommend go read the talk. It's amazing. You can also listen to it. It's a lot funner if you listen to it, because the entire talk, President Kimball was somebody who sometimes it can seem kind of mellow in these quotes, just, he's just talking, but when he gets on the audio, he starts almost pounding the pulpit, so it's a lot of fun. He has a lot of energy and enthusiasm. This was one of his chief topics. He says, if one really loves another, one would rather die for that person than injure them. I want you to think, compare and contrast the kind of love you see in most movies. And you see inconstancy. You see that maybe they like somebody, but then somebody else comes on the scene and they start liking them better, or just not a lot of loyalty, not a lot of faithfulness. But true love, a person would rather, if they really love someone, they would rather die than hurt that person emotionally, physically, or other ways. And he says, we really do not love things. And this was the quote I was thinking about, Sydney, earlier when you made your comment. He says, we don't really love things. We use things like doormats, automobiles, clothing machines. So if we're using people, we don't really love them. But we love people when we serve them and we contribute to their permanent good. The Lord said this when he said, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. He says the difference was also made manifest when Christ is talking to Peter. If you remember the story, this is after Christ died and he came back. And he said to Peter, he says, you love me more than you love these, more than you love this fish, more than you love a career or your life. And Peter said, yes, you know I do. And what was Christ's answer? And Peter said, yes, I love you. You're my God. He said, feed my sheep. Very good. He was saying, I'll know whether you really love me or not based on how much you're willing to lay down your life to serve others. Are you willing to give up something you want to do to go help someone else? Are you willing to make specific career choices or make certain decisions on vacations or make decisions on how you're going to spend your weekend based on helping the world, making the world a better place? Or are you doing it based on what you want to do? President Kimball said, right, and like Sri said, the Lord says to have this conversation 3 times. So he didn't just make the point once, he meant 3 times. And 3 is this very significant number in symbolism, and it's very meaning this is a very important, crucial ideal. President Kimball says, love is kind and wholesome. To love is to give, not to take. To love is to serve, not to exploit. We sing of love in popular songs when we're really, what are we really, when we're talking about these different love songs? He says we're really coveting and wanting and lusting. He says, why do people deceive themselves and others? Why not call it what it actually is? And so at the end of the day, is love possible that is constant? Is love possible that is not like the summer day? Love that goes on through the winter. It's like a firelight in the winter. It's like a candle in the dark. It's all of these different metaphors that are used in other poetry. And the answer would be yes. And the answer to that is love can only exist in righteousness. If you don't have righteousness, to the degree that you're righteous is the degree you'll be able to love other people. And that's what the Savior taught. He was the exemplar. Very good, Jens. Your mom is 100% right. If we really love God, we're going to obey him. And that is what Christ taught. He said, if ye keep my commandments, then you'll abide in my love. I will love you when you keep my commandments. He says, just as I kept my Father's commandments and I abide in his love. He says, I experienced perfect love with the Father because I kept my Father's commandments. If you want to feel that same love, if you want to have that same love, then you have to keep my commandments. And that's why Christ was the exemplar. And so this is a huge topic. Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments and discussion. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to open up a discussion forum on Canvas. So if you can log into Canvas, maybe we'll start a forum. And I would like to throw out just a bonus activity for those who would like to. Go find one scripture that teaches an aspect or a characteristic of love and share it with us and explain why you picked it. It's just an extra activity, and we'll do that on Canvas. Can I get a volunteer for a closing prayer? Okay, Shri, thank you so much.
Oh, I said it at the very beginning.
Oh, thank you, Shri. Okay, didn't she say the opening prayer? Okay.
I could let my sister do it, though.
One of your siblings, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, grateful for this day. We're to learn in this class, and thank you to learn about literature and also about my gospel, and use us this week to go throughout our day to be able to keep these lessons in our hearts and minds forever, and I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, let me know if you have...
Thank you for the lesson.
Oh, you're welcome, Shri. Thank you for helping out with the opening and the closing prayer. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Goodbye.